All right, hey everyone. It's Kevin Proctor here from Iconic Guitars, January 19th, 2024. I'm trying to make it through this, man. This has been pretty emotional for me and all the team here. Yesterday we came to an impasse. It's been something that's boiling for a while, and I had to make the executive decision to cease operations in the facility that we're in right now. I also had to lay off all the staff here today, actually yesterday. And probably one of the most difficult days that I've ever had emotionally. You guys have seen some footage around here. We're a very tight-knit group of people here. Really, really proud of the things that we've accomplished in this facility. But let me settle anything right now. I wanted to come to you with this video so you could hear it from me. Let there be no mistake, we will continue the Iconic Guitars brand. We have to take a pause and reorganize. And when I say that, there's a long string of factors that led up to the events that culminated yesterday in the forced ceasing of operations here. I'm going to try to do this all in one take. I don't want to chop it all up and everything, so bear with me if I stumble over my words. I've been pretty emotional the last few days. I'm going to take a little bit of pause, collect myself, and much like we do around here, I sat here for 3 hours plus last afternoon into the evening with the team members that are Iconic Guitars. As many of you know and have seen and followed on some of our videos, it's not a great secret that we do a good bit of OEM work out of here. Some of the guitars that you know and love and cherish that have other folks' name on the headstock come right out of here. They're built by the same team of people that build Iconic Guitars. Some of those we do on non-disclosure, so I'm not able to tell you who those people are, but they're guitars that you know. And we've been very, very proud to work with those people in the industry to bring some more great guitars to the market. About 2.5 years ago, we had an opportunity, but prior to, let me just rewind a little bit. And again, I might bounce around and I apologize for that. There's a lot of crap that has led up to this moment where I'm sitting right here today. I was approached by the BC Ridge Company a few years ago to do some USA guitars for them on an OEM level. And at the time, I had some things going on with one of my dear friends and mentors in this industry, Paul, who used to work here. And if you guys go way, way, way back, you'll remember all of the early guitars were painted with Paul and I. And he was gracious enough to bestow a lifetime of Lutheran knowledge on me over the years that we got an opportunity to work together. It's through Paul that I know William, who's our director of our operations here, and a lot of the other stories that come of how I met and came to work with some of the fantastic individuals here that have come together to form this team of really talented and passionate individuals that create these guitars. What I believe, and many tell us unsolicited, are some of the finest guitars that have been put out. It's something for me to really be proud of. Let me just rewind kind of back to what happened and what's kind of, I don't want to turn this into a big woe is me thing, but long story compiled into a few minutes here. We were approached to do the BC Ridge OEM project. Bill Xavier approached me a while ago, and I was unable to. I ended up taking care of my friend Paul, who had gone into remission from leukemia and then became ill again and needed a lot of treatment, didn't have family around, so me and my wife and William became his caretakers, food and all of that stuff that goes with that, and ultimately led to his untimely passing just as COVID was starting. And it was right about that time that this team was starting to come together. And Rob Robinson had come on. At that time, Preston Roars had come on, joined the team here, and we were going to move forward into scaling the Iconic Guitars brand. One of the things that came with that is looking for a larger facility that could house the machinery we needed to take on the additional capacity that we were looking to do. I had been approached, as I mentioned, a couple of years, maybe not a couple of years, 18 months or so prior to that, by Bill about doing the BC Rich project, and at the time I don't believe he had found anybody. So as we were looking around and thinking about expanding into the facility that we're in right now, it made sense to give Bill a call. And as a kid of the 80s, you guys know this, I've said this on numerous videos, I'm a huge 80s guitar fan, Van Halen and, all of that stuff is just my jam. So it really struck a chord in me to be able to kind of revive a brand that had struggled numerous times trying to reinvent itself. And at the very onset of that, I made it very clear that I didn't want to be involved in another BC Rich failure. I could really shorten the story right there and say, here we are again. But there's a little bit more to it. So I reached out to Bill and he's like, hey, your ears must have been ringing. I was just thinking of you. So we started off in, here we were right in the early onset time of COVID. And as crazy as that seems, we thought that we could get going with this USA BC Rich program. Meanwhile, we're still ramping up production and capacity for Iconic Guitars. It seemed like a perfect match, and so we started with gunslingers and STs, bolt necks, which we were really good at doing, and we got a little over 100 of those done through COVID. Very challenging with being able to get materials and everything from pickups, magnets for pickups, potentiometers. I mean, you name it. It was difficult to get things, especially some of the longer lead time items that you would typically have, like tremolos and stuff like that. So we came out of the blocks stumbling a little bit, but there was a lot of difficulty in that time. We finished up that purchase order. The guitars went out and had great response. Meanwhile, we're building, adding dealers on the Iconic side, and everything's going along, clicking along pretty well. We started the next round of guitars, which probably were the most popular that we had done thus far, with the most star firepower behind them. A lot of you know that we did all of the Stranger Things Warlocks, one right here behind me. That was scheduled to be a 400 guitar run. I don't know all the particulars. It got dwindled down. We were going to do 200 black, 200 crackle. The black got nixed. There were a few out there. They ended up sharing sequential numbers within the 1 of 200 to 200 of 200 crackle and black. Purchase order for the 200 got canceled, even though we had started to make preparations for that. I understand, how that works. And to be honest with you, we never finished the Stranger Things. They just stopped the purchase order. And so we've still got cases here. We've still got guitars. And moving on, I get it. There, you've got to kind of pivot on the demand thing. We had planned in mid-22 to do a good run, starting with some new models that Bill wanted to do. Bolt neck, we've got, we did already a bunch of great guitars. There's some Dan Lawrence painted original Nagels that we've done, a bunch of Warlocks, some Ironbirds, Crackles, Purple Crackles, some really cool. All in all, up till now, give or take a few guitars, we've done about 350 USA BC Riches out of our facility here. Where we ran into a problem was with the purchase order that kicked off in January of this year. I was submitted, I was given a PO. I gave the invoice back. The invoice was late getting paid to kick off. But it started, right? We got going and ordered, DiMarzio's, and we had a new partnership alliance with Seymour Duncan to bring on and do some Duncans and some BC Rich, utilizing, some relationship there as well. The problems just kept compounding with the program to the point where the BC Rich program and the company BC Rich, Bill Xavier, Zoltan Bathory, and John Chiarando, all listed as corporate officers on their public records, have defaulted on their agreement with us. When I sat toward the end of last year and worked with our CFO on what our budget was for this year and what it was going to take to maintain this facility, that I was asked to build out to be able to accommodate these guitars. The previous STs and gunslingers that we'd done, the first 400, 200 black, 200 black crackle, Warlocks for the Stranger Things Netflix show, and now this 386 guitar run. So the 400 turned into 145. Some problems there. I've got inventory that is unallocated because the purchase order has essentially been neglected and ditched. And now with this 386 guitars, we've been able to build a little over 100. We have amassed a large amount of hardware, accessories. I utilized a lot of my personal relationships with some of our suppliers like G&G Case, Gary Kaler, Andy Papiccio over at AP for Floyd Rose, to try and get some things moving. I had sent out purchase orders based on forecast of what we were going to do that I've had to cancel, thus tarnishing my name and my reputation with our suppliers that we also utilize for the Iconic Guitars projects, as well as some of the other OEM clients that we represent here as well. It has caused a blemish or a stain on the things that we do here that I've been very, very diligent about maintaining those relationships with our suppliers. So that the one instance where I may really need a favor, I can call in and say, hey, I'm in a bind, I need a trem, or I need a set of pickups or a few sets of pickups to finish a run or something like that. So a lot of issues there. Now to the bigger problem. When we set out to do the budgeting for this year, a large part, about 70% of our cash flow was derived from the purchase order that we had received, and thusly the executed contract with payments going to us from the BC Rich LLC company to my corporation. And we factored in what we thought we could do based on our previous numbers. Certainly we factored in some growth. It's been the natural thing every year since Iconic Guitars has come into existence that we've seen growth every year. In 2022 and 2023 was no different. Ultimately, what has happened is there was a large sum of money that was the total of that purchase order, and a little bit over a quarter has been paid and the rest has been defaulted on, while we are stuck with inventory. We have a very large space and a lot of people to be able to accommodate an additional 300, essentially 300 guitars that haven't been built this year because of the default on the payments. We have done our best, and I have been as open and as honest as I can with the people here who work together to create these instruments. I said it yesterday when we were talking. We try to run a very mature and adult shop here. It's not an employer-employee manager kind of thing. I expect the people that work here to operate at a higher level of responsibility, and it works. It's a great place to work. Anybody who's been here can walk around and hear people singing, laughing, whistling to the tunes that are playing. There's always some music going in the shop. It's a really fun place to come, work, and be creative and do something that you really love. And this is, I'm going to try not to swear in this either. This is the part that really sucks for me, is I know the people that work here because they love it. I love being here with them. These people are my family. And when I walked in here yesterday, knowing that the death knell was there. The life had been, I have had some troubles, trials, and tribulations in my life, but I felt like the biggest failure I've ever felt like in my entirety of my 53 years yesterday. But I can tell you one thing, when I walked out of here at 10 after 6, after over 3 hours of talking with the guys that work here, My spirit was uplifted like it had never been in my life. The people here rallied around me, each other, what it is that we do, the passion that we bring to this place every day. This isn't a place to work. This is a place to come and commune with people who have similar interests, similar drive and passion, and a real passion for building great guitars. That's when I knew that I was on the right path. And during the day, I hadn't sat and talked with Amy, our accountant, at great length about where our numbers were and how we'd gotten to this point. We're in Southern California. Nothing has gotten less expensive. We have, in some instances, in some of our basic consumables, acetone, things like that, have more than doubled in the last 2 years. We would pay $7, $8 a gallon. I just got a quote for $19 a gallon for acetone, which is insane. We literally use it for cleaning guns. I mean, it is a consumable. Same thing with our sandpaper. We can't make those finishes as perfect as we are without great sandpaper. We have a very specific system that I developed and then that now has been kind of expanded on and refined to the point where, here again, it has been said that we have some of the nicest guitar finishes in the industry. I would tend to agree. We are now at the point where I have done everything that I possibly can from an administrative point of view. I have taken as much as I possibly can from my personal savings. It is a very large sum of money to keep this afloat while there are accusations of, we've taken deposits and not delivered guitars. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to set the record straight. I have put the offer out to get together with our accounting teams and figure out where their discrepancy is. Our records are kept impeccably. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to disparage any other accounting or anything like that, but we know exactly what guitar is where, what serial number was what, who made it, on what date it was made, and we've been tracking that stuff for years. All of that stuff is in a spreadsheet. This particular one is kept by William, who is the director of operations, and we were queried for statements and invoices and all these other things. Those things have been provided. Right now, where we stand through this is about 8 months in arrears on payments, and I'll just be honest, we've done our damnedest to keep the ship afloat. I have been completely honest with the guys here. They understand where the deficiency is. This building that I'm sitting in right now, as wonderful of a guitar production facility as it is for the level that we work, is too big, it's too expensive for just iconic guitars. I was asked to scale my business to accommodate the BC Rich USA project. I believe we succeeded beyond. We have a capacity right now to build more guitars than we have call for Iconic. I'm fine with that. I'm really good where the Iconic Guitars brand is in the growth that we have had over the years. It's very organic. It is literally, stonemason, brick for brick, building the foundation of this thing, which is the way I've always wanted to do it. If you go back to my earliest videos, anybody who's ever spoke to me at NAMM or anything like that, we're building this brand, Iconic Guitars, exactly the way that I had envisioned it. I don't want a bunch of funny money in there in advertising. I'm not saying we don't boost a post or something of a sick guitar every now and then, or if we're gonna put a great guitar up for sale, but we're not out there spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of advertising like some of the larger brands are. I'm very much, a kid in that, 70s and 80s, where you'd be, running down to the local music store because they had a cool guitar in there, and you'd run home and, grab the wall off the phone or the phone off the wall, you know what I mean, and dial the damn buddy up and say, hey man, we got to make it down and check out this guitar. So that's the way that I've always envisioned our brand growing, and it's worked. People who play our guitars tell their friends about it. Hey, so-and-so told me about your guitar. I got to play his. It's super badass. Love to work with you guys. And that has led me to what I'm about to say. When Monday came, Martin Luther King Day. We ran a bit of a launch over the weekend, and we didn't get quite the response that I was hoping for. I understand that things are tight out there. I have friends in the industry. We all know the economy in 2023 and 2024 so far, even though we're only a couple of weeks into it, it's not raging. It's not the greatest it's been in history. Times are tight, money's tight, and the guitars at the level we sell are not what one could consider a necessary item in your budget. So we understand that times are tight. Had a lot of conversations with friends about this. We've been trying to prepare for it. I cannot, however, change the overhead that we have in this building that we took on based on purchase orders that I'd received. Sorry. It was, as I mentioned, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, to come in and talk to these people who I cherish. We share stories. I know their families. I know their children. We hang out. We drink beer together. We go to shows together. We play guitar here together. We're friends and family and co-workers last. For me to have to come in here and tell them, hey, I've got to shut the lights off for a while because we can no longer afford to operate here. I have exhausted every penny that I have to keep this thing afloat while we try to work things out. That has yet to happen. I don't know if anything's going to happen with those guys. The only thing I know is I was asked to make 386 guitars. We've completed about 104, 106. I don't have the number in front of me. And there are many, many, many parts here for those guitars that we've purchased. With that being said, I'd like to assure anybody who has a guitar on order, those guitars will be finished. We're still open for business. I've just literally got to take a pause so that I can get out from underneath the large financial commitment that we signed up for here based on a contract that we had that has been defaulted on. There's no other way to say it. So with that being said, Iconic Guitars is still Iconic Guitars. It is still me. It is still William. We're going to do our best to keep everybody employed here. I can't guarantee anything right now. I don't know what the future of Iconic Guitars looks like, other than the fact that we will still be making guitars. As I said, right now we have a capacity to build 55 to 60 guitars at the quality that we build them at every month. Right now, with the way the economy is, we don't have a call for that many guitars. And I said, I don't have anything to be embarrassed about there. I've been building this guitar company from the ground up, bootstrapping it with nickels I find in the damn couch cushions. I'm extremely proud of the things that we've done, and one of the things that I'd like to share with you is, while I know some of my counterparts in the industry, and like I said, 2023 wasn't a banner year for us in my mind as we were going through all of these struggles. But the numbers from my accountant do not lie. There are actual sales numbers. And as I mentioned, we have had, since inception, growth every single year. Good percentages of growth. 2023 was no different. 2023 was the most successful year with guitar sales that Iconic Guitars has ever had. So I'm going to take that as a win. And in doing that, with this team here, I was able to plug a really large financial hole for a long time. That was never supposed to be the responsibility of Iconic Guitars to have to do. So with the things that we have done, the guitars that everyone out there has gotten and raved about and told friends about, and going on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it may be, YouTube, and commented and maybe influenced somebody to check us out, I thank you all, because that's really how I would like to continue doing it. So we have a myriad of guitars right now. It has been our goal for the better part of 2 years, We got up buried in orders. We were a year plus deep during COVID when everyone was going buck wild. Some of that was capacity. Some of that was just not being able to get, key necessary items we don't manufacture here. Like I said, tremolos and tuners and things like that. Heck, there for a while, we couldn't even get magnets for pickups. So we started, to have a longer backlog. When production stopped on the BC Rich side of things, we were able to kind of ramp up and say, okay, well, hey, if you ordered a guitar 6-8 months ago, yours is in the queue, you're coming right up. And we were able to shorten that window. We are now to the point where we're almost caught up because, as I mentioned, we're never intended to have this level of capacity for the demand that we have. Going forward, we're going to look to reorganize into a space that's more commensurate with the demand for guitars that we have. We understand what it is, and everybody here is perfectly fine with it. I'll keep you guys updated as kind of that stuff starts working itself out. There's a lot of work left to do here to wind down in this facility so that I can be able to move into another facility and not be shackled to a very large monthly lease payment here on this facility. We've got a little over 2 years, 2.5 years maybe tops left on the lease here. We should be able to get worked through that. I've spoken to some real estate guys and, blah, blah, blah. Inconsequential at this point, but the real larger story that I wanted to get out here was that I don't want there to be rumor mill. I don't want there to be a bunch of BS talked on the internet. We've made some great guitars out of this facility. As I mentioned, we made over 350 BC Rich USA guitars. There hasn't been that many guitars in circulation in, less than 2 years for that brand, and I don't even know when. I'm extremely proud of those guitars. They're at Sweetwater, they're at Guitar Center, they're at, your not mom and pop shop that's down the street. Those guitars are iconic. Those guitars were built here by the team here. We're going to keep going. How we do that largely depends on, certainly some economic conditions and the speed at which I can wind down things here. The leading cause for us having to wind down things here is cash flow. That cash flow is what makes this building operate. There's not a large profit margin in what we do at the OEM level, but it does help us keep our employees paid, our workers' comp insurance paid, our electric bill paid, our all the other things that it takes to run this building. So once we can kind of wrap our head around that and wind things down here, like I say, I've already got some calls out to some spaces that are a little bit more size worthy for what we need. But rest assured, your guitar is going to be completed. There's no need to fret there. The company's going to keep going on. We've done way too much great stuff to just fold it down. And like I said, from the Iconic Guitars point of view, there's absolutely no reason. We're not out of business. We just had the best year we've ever had, by far. We sold more guitars in 2023 than we did in 2022, which when we were just literally scrambling to get guitars together as fast as we could, no shortcuts, because the demand from COVID was so high. So our 23 was good. I'm looking forward to a great 24, but we're going to take a few minutes, maybe a few weeks, maybe up to a couple of months. At this point, I really don't know what it is time-wise that it's going to take. When you don't have the cash flow to be able to keep this amazing group of people employed, it really does put a damper in the forward progress. But as I mentioned, and it bears repeating, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is sit in front of the people that I love here. I spend more time with these people than I spend with my own family, and they here, right? I see the interactions these guys have with each other here. carpooling, and I mean, it's a big family, and we're tight, and we check in with each other. Buddy gets a cold, kid's sick, whatever. Hey, how's the baby doing? That's the kind of people that I cherish, and they're here, and they're the people that have been building these guitars with me for years. To have to tell them that I'm going to have to shut down for a while was incredibly difficult. The rally cry of support that came after that initial shock of, shit, I don't have a job tomorrow. The hell am I going to do? How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to put food on my table? How am I going to pay my freaking car payment? How does that happen? How do we do that going forward? Where does my paycheck come from? So these are all things that, like I said, I have really wrestled with. And to be able to sit with the amazing humans here, and yeah, that's me. When you see the amazing humans, when you see that on one of the posts that tags me and says, oh, Kevin this, Kevin that, there is no I here. There isn't shit I can do here by myself. Everybody from my wife, the accounting team, everybody on the administrative side to, the newest hire that we have here is an integral part of what we do here. And everybody on the production side of things knows that they have the power in what we do to pull the e-brake and go, hey, this is not up to snuff. This is not the quality that we're going to be doing. So to sit with those people, tell them they're not going to be employed tomorrow. Your source of income to provide for your family is now gone, was a really, really shitty thing for me to have to do, because we had just had the best year we'd ever had. I relied on the word of a company who, by all accounts, their principal partners have plenty of money to party and do shit like that, but they can't seem to pay their effing bills. So with that, I'm going to leave that. There'll be no disparaging comments. It's sad. I really, really, from the 80s kid that's trapped inside me, you see the guitars that I get over, you throw a Floyd or a Kaler on a guitar, and, I think I've floated a picture out me, from when I was a kid in the basement with my, original 84 pointy Charvel that I bought from Grover, who, now is a friend and confidant and advisor to me. I spoke with him at great length. Thank you, Grover, for, taking a couple hours to, to help me, pin down some thoughts on this. Spoke to some other trusted guys. Gary Kaler's, Andy Papicchio's, Bob Taylor, a bunch of people that I've had the real pleasure to become friends with, who have always been, heroes on the guitar building side of mine. While I'm incredibly saddened about this string of events, I wanted to be associated with, bringing this B-Series brand back into, what could have been its heyday, like the 74 to 85 Moser years, and, all those great guitars that, that we saw Lita Ford and Blackie Lawless and all those people playing back in the day. It just wasn't meant to be, apparently. And, I can say it wasn't for the quality of the guitars. Everybody that's ever played one says best guitars that have ever bore that name. So with that, you see a couple of the representations of some of the stuff that we've done here. And you're gonna see some more. But at this point, like I said, in the facility that I'm sitting in, we're going to be pausing operations and winding down here. At the same time, I'm, my wife is already helping me, look for again, a size that's more commensurate for what we're going to do. Whether we entertain doing OEM work beyond what we're currently doing, we've loved working with Shelby Pollard over at Black Bob and Shelby. We're going to keep going. Love doing those jam style guitars for you. Gary Beers, we're going to keep going. GGB basses, love that stuff. We've done a bunch of great guitars for our friends over at Friedman Guitars. We've done guitars for Abbasi. We've done a lot of OEM stuff that we're super proud of. I think it may be time for us here, the core group of people at Iconic Guitars, to get back to building just what we do. That's kind of where my mindset is right now, although I'm not exactly sure what that looks like going forward. So with that, I just wanted to put it out there. I wanted you to hear it from the horse's ass's mouth, if you will. I'm not big into rumor mill shit. You don't see me on forums talking shit. If you want to talk to me, my phone number is the one that's on the website. Hit me up, shoot me an email. It's pretty simple. Kevin at Iconic Guitars. I'll be glad to take anything offline that you'd want to speak about. But if you have any questions, reach out to us. If you're interested in something we've got going, we would greatly appreciate it. We've got an amazing group of guitars. And I was going to talk about this. I got a little bit off track. One of the things that we'd always wanted to do through COVID was build out a stock of guitars that we could offer out to our dealer network at a quicker turn. How it's always worked with our dealer network is they would call and say, hey, we'd like to order some guitars. And whatever our backlog was, it was only fair that they would slide in, first in, first out. That's the way we've always done it. It's hard for a small business to say, hey, I'd like to order 10 guitars. Here's a deposit, and then wait 6, 8, and at the time we were 12 plus months out. To be able to take that deposit as a small business, a lot of the boutique shops that we work with, like Matt's and Righteous Guitars and Distinctive Guitar in Milwaukee, our very first dealer, all of these are small shops who focus on the level of quality that we build, and we sit beside some of the most reputable names in the guitar industry. That's a large chunk of money for a small shop to have out and wait 6, 8, 10, 12 plus months to get the guitars and then try to recuperate that investment of capital. So for me, I said, hey, we've got the bodies, we've got the human bodies, we've got the guitar bodies, we've got the things to build some guitars. We have a really good idea of what sells for us. Let's build some of those so that we could offer those out to our dealers and say, hey, we've got these guitars in stock. You can purchase them right now and you can move them out to a client or customer very quickly. You don't have that waiting period. The return on your investment is much faster. And thusly, through that, when those guitars had been offered out to our dealer network, we also have our secret stash where we've got a bunch of freaking sick guitars right now and a lot more cool shit coming. So if you had the inclination to get one of our guitars, here again, we're not going anywhere. I've got a bunch of guitars that are going to be headed into there right now. They're going to be photographed and all that other stuff. I think there's 16-ish guitars up there right now. There's probably another 20 to 30 maybe behind it. I don't recall right now. They're mixed in with client guitars. Here again, when the build sheet goes on, and it's kind of a sequential thing that runs through production. But other than that, I just kind of wanted to touch on that and let you know we're going to have we're going to have a pile of guitars to tide us over. We've got to generate some revenue so that we can afford to move. I don't know if you've ever moved houses, but you don't just shut the lights off in this one and go and turn the lights on in this one. You got first and last month's rent and moving costs, and hell, when we moved in here, I spent $30,000 just to put electricity to the machines. So we're going to have to do an exercise at a smaller scale of that once again. So here again, like I said, if you had an inclination to check out one of our guitars, there's some on our website right now. If you'd like to go through one of your local dealers, your favorite dealer, whatever, hit those up, take a look, work with them, get something in the queue with us. That's also fine. We're not going to stop. I've just got to pause, take a breath, get out from the large financial encumbrance that this facility is, and get into something that works better for what it is that we are, a boutique guitar company. And that's what we're going to continue to do. I want to focus on building the most badass guitars we possibly can with the most badass people on earth. And with that, that's all I've got. God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in.